And action. Okay, fifth graders, take 3. What I want for you to do is get your math lab books, your math notes, because we are going to continue on writing some notes about exponents, exponential value. Okay, so grab those. And then if you still have your cards, we're going to use 3 cards today. We're going to use the squared card, the cubed card, and then you have another page of vocabulary cards, and then you have the power of 10 card. Okay, so I'm going to try and get going. So first thing we're going to talk about is the term, when you hear the term, a certain number squared. Okay, so squared means to the second power. So let's use an example, 10 squared. Okay, so anything to the second power is going to be that number squared. Any number to the second power is called squared. Okay, so you're going to see squared a lot when it comes to area. A lot of geometry will have you working with squared and cubed. Okay, so I'm going to try to glue in my example of what squared looks like as an example. So 10 squared is 10 times 10, okay, which equals 100. Anything to the second power is considered squared. Okay, so I'm going to even try and highlight the 2. So our example has 25 squared. So 25 squared is 25 times 25, which gives us a total of 625. Sorry that this is not straight. Okay, next example we are going to glue is cubed. Okay, so if you had 10 to the third power, okay, any number to the third power is also called cubed. And I will move my hand so you can look. Okay, so any number with 3 on top as an exponent, you can also call that 10 cubed. So you'll only see that for the second power and the third power. There's no special names for 10 to the fourth power, 10 to the fifth power, and so on. It doesn't matter your base number, however. If you have any number to the second power, you will call that squared. Okay, so 25 squared, 10 squared. Down here, our example is 3 cubed. Okay, so 3 cubed is 3 times 3 times 3 for a total of 27. That doesn't look like a glue stick. So we're going to glue this one in for an example of what that term cubed means. Okay, so 3-dimensional is something that helps me remember cubed, because if I'm going to draw a cube, right, and I'm drawing it to look 3-dimensional. So that's a little trick I use to remember the 3. Okay, 3D. Although, all right, so any number to the third power is also called cube. So for example, this would be 10 times 10 times 10 for a total of 1,000, right? Count my zeros up. I know 1 times 1 times 1 is 1. Okay, we're going to do one more example. We're going to talk about the power of 10. So remember, you can always pause it, rewind it. Hopefully your notes are looking more professional than mine. All right, so the next page we're going to work on is powers. Okay, so the power of 10. 10 is always a great base unit because it helps us with fractions, place value, the metric system, and exponents. I keep wanting to use my highlighter as my glue stick. It's Friday. Okay. So since I already have a little glue there, I'm going to put this right here. So now we're going to talk about powers. So when you're dealing with 10, there are definitely some strategies to solving any number multiplied by 10. Okay, so what I do is I will look at my zeros and I will add them up. 10 is great because you always deal with a 1 in front. So there's not a lot of mental math except for looking at patterns, okay, which we have been doing. So this should kind of almost seem like review for us, okay? So I'm going to give you an example of 10 in exponential form. Powers of 10, this is what they say, 10 to the 4th power, okay? So this is considered 10 to the 4th power, all right? So this is important because this is a great mental strategy for solving multiplication patterns. And all I'm going to do is give examples of powers of 10. Okay, so at the top, we'll title this Examples of the Power of 10. Okay. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to write out these examples because the more you see the patterns, the more it will make sense and feel almost like second nature. Okay, so 10 squared, or 10 to the 2nd power, is 10 times 10, which equals 100. 10 cubed, or 10 to the 3rd power, is 10 times 10 times 10, which equals 1,000. 10 to the 4th power, which we have up here, is considered 10 times 10 times 10 times 10, which equals 10,000. 10 to the 5th power, you guessed it, 10 times 10 times 10 times 10 times 10, and I'm going to have 5 zeros. Let's do one more. 10 to the 6th power will give me 10 times 10 times 10 times 10 times 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 times 10. And that is going to give me 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 zeros. 1 million. Maybe you caught that mistake and you're like, oh no, she's going to have to do take 4. Okay, so why did Miss Pep write all these multiplication sentences when she didn't have to? Well, I want you to just see all the steps, okay? So what I do for a trick for myself, it helped me learn, is I know when I'm looking at an exponent, if it's 10 to the 2nd power, there are 2 zeros in my answer. I'm not adding those 2 zeros to that because that would give me 1,000. Okay, so when you look and see an exponent after 10, you know that I'm going to use this first one and I'm going to have 3 zeros. If it helps you to write it out, 10 times 10 times 10, and then count your zeros, that's a great strategy. So I'm going to give you an example of 10 to the 7th power. I know I'm going to have 7 zeros. Okay, now if I wrote that out, it would be 10 times 10 times 10 times 10 times 10 times 10 times 10. It's a lot of tens. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So I know if I have 7 zeros right away, I can write them out. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I know 1 times 1 times 1 times 1. 1 times itself is always going to give you 1. And that's what is great about the power of 10, because you don't have to worry so much about your multiplication facts. Your main focus is looking at your exponents and translating that into whole numbers. So now I am not done. I need to make sure my zeros add up to 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And then I will add in my commas. Okay, so I'm basically counting the exponents and making sure the exponents match the number of zeros I have. This is a strategy when dealing with powers of 10. Okay, count the exponent, count the exponents to equal the zeros. I hope that makes sense how I wrote that. Okay. Whew. I got through the video. So powers of 10, very important to know that we're counting zeros to build up our numbers, and that we could see that every time we get a new power, we add to an exponent, we're basically just adding a zero. Okay. Another thing that we are focusing on today is the difference between the term squared, second power, and cubed, third power. There's no other specific terms you need to know at this point. All right, I hope you have a great week. Remember, you can pause, take the notes, and then once you have written the notes, your next assignment will be to take pictures and send them to me. Bye. Let's see if I can stop the video.